the video that I selected for you, and then we'll be back. So in this way, we'll give some time for your friends to arrive to the class, and then we'll continue the PowerPoint I prepared for you guys, okay? Anika, let's watch this video.
Hello, teacher. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Anika.
Bienvenidos al Draw My Life de Alejandro Magno. Alejandro Magno es uno de los conquistadores más grandes de todos los tiempos. Ni siquiera Napoleón fue capaz de superar sus proezas militares, que se han convertido en leyenda y mantienen vivo su nombre siglos después de su muerte. Pero para contar su historia hay que regresar mucho tiempo atrás. Alejandro nació en el 356 a.C., en Macedonia, actualmente Pella, una provincia al norte de Grecia. Su padre fue Filipo, uno de los guerreros y militares más grandes de su tiempo, conquistador y fundador del reino de Macedonia. Su madre, Olimpia, se dedicó al culto de Dionisios, ya sabéis, el dios del vino y el éxtasis. El futuro de Alejandro parecía el mismo que el de cualquier príncipe, pero no lo fue. Su madre solía contarle que su verdadero padre era Zeus, el rey de los dioses, que la había fecundado transformado en serpiente. Eso significaba que aquel pequeño era un semidios. Las historias de su madre nunca fueron confirmadas, pero lograron que Filipo y Alejandro se convirtieran en rivales. La educación del príncipe estuvo a cargo de Aristóteles, uno de los filósofos más importantes de Grecia, que le habló sobre la guerra de Troya y Aquiles, otro semidios que logró hazañas increíbles de las que los griegos seguían hablando. Alejandro se propuso superar a Aquiles, pero Filipo tenía otros planes y exilió a su hijo. Alejandro volvió a Macedonia poco tiempo antes de que Filipo fuera asesinado por un miembro de su guardia personal, y a los 20 años ya era líder de uno de los ejércitos más poderosos de Grecia, que, gracias a su ambición de poder y gloria, motivó para conquistar Persia, aquel imperio que su padre jamás pudo vencer. Así comenzó un viaje de 11 años para Alejandro y su ejército de 30.000 hombres, con los que superó todo tipo de obstáculos y logró lo que ningún otro militar. Conquistó alrededor de 5 millones de kilómetros desde Grecia hasta Afganistán. Fue nombrado señor de Asia y faraón de Egipto. El éxito de Alejandro se debió en gran medida a su determinación, valentía, audacia y un carisma que mantenía motivados a sus hombres, además de sus técnicas brutales temidas por cualquiera que se atreviera a enfrentarlo. Pero con el tiempo, el ego y la soberbia se adueñaron de Alejandro. Se convirtió en un tirano que mataba a cualquiera que estuviera en desacuerdo con él, incluso a sus propios soldados. Después de 8 años, sus tropas se negaron a avanzar más, y con menos hombres, regresó a Persia por el desierto del Sáhara, aunque eso le costara otra parte de su ejército. Después de una de sus campañas más desastrosas, Alejandro se instaló en Babilonia y murió a los 32 años de causas todavía desconocidas, principalmente porque el cuerpo del gran conquistador se perdió entre saqueos, guerras y desastres naturales. Hasta la fecha, los arqueólogos e historiadores siguen buscando sus restos. Alejandro Magno unió mundos, mezcló el Oriente con el Occidente, inspiró a otros militares y estrategas como Julio César, Aníbal, Napoleón y George Washington, y finalmente logró lo que tanto deseaba, la inmortalidad. Y este ha sido el Draw My Life de Alejandro Magno. ¡Hasta la próxima!
Guys, hold. Okay, let's watch another one and then we'll continue. Let's see. This one.
Alexander the Great is just one of those personalities that you have no idea how you learned about. He was just there, like your dad. But for everyone who had worse off childhoods than us, basically he was a king of an ancient Greek empire called Macedonia. He ruled a large empire. Actually, as we will discover later, one of the largest empires to ever have existed. But what quality was in this dude that he was rumored to be the son of Zeus and managed such a huge chunk of the world? We can't even manage 3 classes. Find out in the newest episode of Explained. What made Alexander so great? Alexander was born in Macedonia to King Philip, who ensured that his boy was an all-rounder. Prospective Harvard student-level all-rounder, or maybe one notch down. He was, shocker, a courageous guy. One of his famous anecdotes includes the taming of Bucephalus, a huge stallion which was deemed impossible to break. However, at the age of 12, Alexander conquered the horse, and it led him to his many future victories. Philip II really messed up on selecting his philosophy teacher, though. Really? Aristotle? Could he have been more of a cheapskate? Sarcasm aside, not many leaders can brag about being a student of one of the most well-known philosophers in history. Alexander had total bragging rights since he excelled in philosophy, medicine, and literature. When Alexander turned 16, his father left him to go fight people, as you do, leaving him in charge. What were we doing at the great age of 16? Oh yeah, reading edgy Tumblr quotes and wearing questionable amounts of eyeliner. But not Alexander. He had stuff to do. He had to prove his worth. So he picked up his sword and led an attack against the sacred band of Thebes, which were previously thought as unbeatable. He came into true power, though, after his father was assassinated by his bodyguards when Alexander was 20. He killed everyone who could possibly challenge his claim, which sounds ruthless, but it was pretty common practice for a long time. He also crushed rebellion from the north of the Greek Empire, which left him free to focus all of his energy to fulfill his dream, which was dominating the whole world. Normal stuff. He started with Persia, the conquering of which was also his father's dream. It was not exactly an easy task. In fact, Persia was one of the superpowers of the world, and their army was far greater in number than Alexander's. The next few years he engaged in a couple of battles with Persia, but nothing too revolutionary. It was enough time for the new Persian king, Darius III, to gather a huge amount of soldiers. During this time, another popular event took place. Alexander went to Gordium, where a famous Gordium knot was tied. It was legend that whoever would untie the knot would conquer all of Asia. Spoiler alert, Alexander did not untie it, but he took his sword and cut through it, paying homage to his motto, "He who tries never fails." After this, the legendary Battle of Issus took place. Why is it so legendary? Well, facts say Alexander was so great in it, King Darius's mother adopted him. Exactly. How? Well, in this battle, Alexander's army was still outnumbered, but they fought with a great motive, and that was to plunder as much of Persia's wealth as possible. Which they did. Soon it became super clear that Alexander was going to annihilate Darius, and so the Persian king ditched his entire family and fled. His mother was, surprise, surprise, horrendously angry and publicly disowned her son and adopted Alexander. At this point, Alexander's army was pretty high on victory, but they still did not have a navy. So it was impossible to conquer parts of Persia that had no land entry. Being the tenacious leader he was, Alexander managed to build a huge fleet and conquer Tyre, which was a huge chunk of Persian defense that had no land entry. But he realized that to deliver the final blow to the Persian Empire, he needed more power. So he turned towards Egypt and entered it through a town that is still named Alexandria. He obtained many soldiers there. So, as you can imagine, Darius was pretty much panicking at this point. He pleaded for peace, but Alexander refused and managed to overthrow his rule completely to become the new king of Persia. Here, some trouble began. Due to the facts that Alexander started acting too Persian and trying too hard to get Persia's approval, which made his generals angry and he killed a bunch of them. Still, he decided to move on, even though he was rumored to regret his actions, which is miles above what any ruler felt in those days. Really. And by moving on, we mean he entered Punjab in India to conquer a lot of tribes. He wanted to attack all of India, actually, but his troops wanted to get back to Persia, so he split them and sent one half back. There, the famous mass wedding took place. His officers married Persian princesses to create a breed that would be completely loyal to Alexander, which is, very creepy. But his officers were angry for another reason. They thought they were losing their culture, so to defuse the situation, Alexander replaced them with Persians, to which we just have to say, LOL. On the bright side, he did quickly return said titles as to not have to murder more generals. Now, an event occurred which provided some interesting facts about Alexander that really proved that he was also a drama queen. His dear friend Hephaestion died, and he spent just, a little sum of $1.5 billion on his funeral. He cried over his body, spent about 9 months building monuments for his buddy, and lighted the fire signifying only the death of the king. These events actually occurred a little time before the light was lit for legitimate reasons. Alexander the Great bit the dust at the age of 32. Some say that he was poisoned, some say that it was a really weird time with a lot of weird diseases. Who knows? All we know is he ruled a chunk of the world in a little over 12 years. The time it took for us to learn algebra with crying occasionally instead of constantly. Unfortunately, though, his empire was almost immediately torn apart because he had no solid successor, which just proves that life is garbage. On the bright side, he got to enjoy his victories for a month or so. Here you go, his entire life story. Did you think it's justified him being so admired after 1 trillion years even? Let us know.
Okay, let's stop right here, guys. Let's continue discussing the PowerPoint that I prepared for you guys. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Last Monday, this was the last slides we were discussing. Now let's move on. So the final discussion was that Alexander built a great empire. Remember over here, he was the king of Macedonia, and then when he died, dies, he become the king of Macedonia, and then they invade Greece, and then also start invading different places, like here in Persia, and he wanted to go to India, and also he went to Egypt. Okay, so let's continue with the next slide. It says, although he was only 20 years old, Philip's son was a strong leader as his father. Remember Philip? He immediately went south. He went south to this area in Egypt to end the revolts in Thebes. Thebes was a tribe over here, ancient Thebes, this area over here, this area of Egypt. Okay, within a year, Alexander had destroyed Thebes and enslaved the Thebes people. Now, Alexander's effort to build an empire made him one of the greatest conquerors of history. This effort earned him the name of Alexander the Great because he conquered different countries and empires. That's why he became known as Alexander the Great. After defeating the Persians near the town of Issus, Alexander went to Egypt, which was part of Persian Empire, because Persia, they invaded Egypt. The Persian governor had heard of his skills in battle, so he decided to surrender without a fight in 332 years BC and crowned Alexander a pharaoh. Okay, now after that they tried to continue conquering different places. They still intend to build his empire. Alexander led his army through Central Asia. So in 327 BC, Alexander crossed the Indus River and wanted to push deeper into India. But his exhausted soldier refused to go any further. Disappointed, Alexander began the long march back home. Here's some notes about Alexander. Alexander built an empire marching home. Alexander left India 325 BC, but he never made it back to Greece. Nunca llegó a Grecia. Why? Because he got sick and he died. In the year 323 BC, on his way back, Alexander visited the city of Babylon and got sick. He died a few days later at the age of 33. After he died, Alexander's body was taken to Egypt and buried in a golden coffin. But people really doesn't know where his body was buried, okay? So these are another map, all the places he conquered and the battles that we had over here. This sign shows the major battle he had during his conquer. Alexander spread Greek cultural influence through his empire. Alexander also established standardized coins on silver and gold to be used throughout his empire. On these coins called Alexanders, that was the name of the coins. Como acá se llaman Martinelli o Torrijos o Balboas, bueno, allá se llamaban Alexanders, were portraits of gods and heroes. And this was the end, guys, okay? So this is the end of these the last chapter I have had for you guys. And also I have another video, but I don't know if it will have time. Let me try, because in this video it talks about the way they battle in the field. Okay, let me see if I can get it, guys. Open it and try to get it. The way they battle in the field. Let me open it again, because it was very impressive how they battled during those years, because remember that they mentioned that they had a very long spears. This a long spears, and they arranged, the army was arranged in a way that they were moving forward. So over here it shows how they battle in the field. Let me see. It is the last video that I have here in this platform. An example. Let me see it. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Come on, come on, come on. My computer is slow. Okay, this is it. This is it. Here's the video.
331 BC, near the small village of Gaugamela, in present-day Iraq, two vast forces of men are engaged in a battle for the future of the world. On one side is the great king of Persia, Darius, commander of the largest army on Earth.
He probably had 200 to 250,000 men on the field.
On the other side is an army 1/5 the size, led by a 26-year-old named Alexander.
He was, at this point in his young life, a veteran commander.
Prepare to experience the greatest battle of the ancient world like never before. Witness firsthand the innovative strategies and weapons of war.
They'd have a weapon much like this, a very aerodynamic spear.
Who was Alexander? How could he possibly face an army 5 times his number?
His tactics are still in use today. His ideas are still in use today.
What was Alexander's secret weapon?
Alexander was a phenomenon.
Go back in time and experience one of the world's greatest battles.
Gaugamela was a turning point in world history.
The lines have been drawn, the odds impossible. Prepare for battle. It's a fight to the finish that will change history forever and define one young man as Alexander the Great. His army standing at the ready for the entire night. It was not a cohesive force, but a series of armed groups levied from the governors or satraps of every corner of the empire.
The king would go to the satrap and say, your tax this year is 1,000 men. And he might have a huge variety of these from different places. He fought with Ethiopians. He fought with Bactrians, who would be Afghanistan today. They were all over the place, and they may speak different languages, have different cultures, have different weapons.
Most Persian warriors wore no armor and no helmet. Each carried an 8-foot spear and a shield made of wicker. But what the Persian army lacked in armor and weapons, they made up for in numbers.
You think of the Persians, they're not a bunch of yahoos. The tactics that they're using have been effective for hundreds of years. The Persians have a huge empire. It's been good enough.
Against this enormous army, Alexander has one advantage.
Hi!
This professional army has the Macedonian phalanx. Captain Dale Dye, retired officer, historian, and film consultant, has studied the Macedonian approach to warfare.
The Macedonian phalanx, probably the most potent weapon of war in the ancient world. The phalanx, blocks of individuals, 256 men, arranged 16 across by 16 deep.
Once you were in the formation and going forward, you really had no choice as to whether you were going to go backwards or not. You were definitely going forward with this massive wall of human muscle and spear points, and that's what made it so overwhelming.
In the front rank were the most veteran fighters, the fighters who had proved their courage, their bravery on the battlefield, who could be relied on to go forth and contact the enemy. He carried a small shield. The shield was suspended by a strap from his neck so that it would help support the weight More importantly, that would allow his left hand, his shield hand, to be free. Not grasping the shield, but free, so that he could reach over and grasp his primary weapon. And his primary weapon was the sarissa. Now, we believe sarissas were somewhere between 16 and 18 feet long.
Up to this point, the principal combatants were carrying 7 to 8 foot spears. Philip gave the
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here, guys, because we don't have enough time, and this is the last video of the year, the last class of the year. Now, if you wanna finish, then don't worry, just go to the platform and then try to finish the video that we were watching. Okay, guys. Now, I just wanted to say thank you for being here, and I know that you have. This year has been a very different year than from the other ones, because right now we are at home and I am at home and we are just trying to connect each other through the technology. Okay, so it's been a very different year from the others, and just want to thank you for your support. I know it's not easy. It's not easy to focus and concentrate on your studies now using this kind of environment, the environment of all these technology and everything else is something new. But anyway, we have to get used to it, because it looks like next year we're going to start again, beginning our yearly classes using the same system. Okay, so try to adjust. And I hope that everything, all what is happening right now, pass by quickly, and then we'll be back to school, watching each other as a normal, regular class. Okay. Nuevamente le doy las gracias, chicos. Sé que este no es algo normal para ustedes, algo nuevo, dar clases así de manera virtual. Es difícil acostumbrarse, es difícil, pero tenemos que, por mientras, hasta que encontramos ya vamos a ver si llega pronto la famosa vacuna, esperemos que llegue. De todas maneras, la vida sigue, la vida tiene que seguir, y entonces el ser humano tiene que adaptarse. Lo único que siempre es constante es el cambio, chicos. Así que siempre va a haber cambio en la vida de ustedes, siempre. No todo se va a mantener igual, no. Uno tiene que ir adaptando, esforzándose y cambiando y ajustándose a los cambios que se están dando. Nosotros ya nos ajustamos al cambio de la enseñanza virtual, y quizás el otro año también arranquemos también así con la enseñanza virtual, y de repente quizás a medio año ya vayamos retornando a la manera presencial. Pero por mientras tratemos de dar lo mejor de nosotros, concentrarnos, porque papá y mamá están invirtiendo en la educación de ustedes, y además de la educación de ustedes es su futuro. Entonces, yo le agradezco el haber estado aquí conmigo, y nos estaríamos viendo entonces. No sé si de repente yo les voy a dar la misma clase esta, o les voy a dar otra clase el otro año. Así que de todas maneras, si no, de todas maneras, por ahí yo los estaré de repente supervisando alguna clase o algo así. Así que muchas gracias el haber asistido a mi clase, y espero que hayan aprendido algo. ¿Entendido, chicos? Nos vemos entonces el otro año. Por favor, cuídense. Feliz Navidad, próspero año nuevo, y acuérdense siempre lavarse las manos. ¿Entendido,
Muchas
chicos?
gracias, profe.
No,
Adiós.
nos vemos, Lía. Cuídense. Chao.